Welcome everybody to the Power of New podcast. We are your hosts today, Mark and Dane Appleyard of Anything Global Ministries here in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina.
This is a podcast with a difference. Most podcasts these days are a conversation between two or more people that you listen to in order to kill some time while you're driving, going to work, working out. But we believe that we are different in that we want to invite you into the conversation.
Yeah, that's right. We are inviting you to join us in a new conversation around spiritual leadership principles that work. This is an interactive podcast where we go further and dive deeper into exploring our Heavenly Father's always perfect love as together we engage with real impact stories from Kingdom Marketplace leaders across the world. So, if as our conversation unfolds you have a burning question, raise a hand, put a message in the chat, and we'll give a chance to interact.
Today's podcast will be transformational. Whether you are with us live on our cast or joining us on LinkedIn, Facebook Live, YouTube, or listening to our podcast later, we are truly honored that you would spend this next hour with us.
And what an hour it's going to be. The Power of New podcast relies on the support of its listeners like you, so you can help us continue delivering this content by donating through the provided link. If you're a US resident or US-based business looking to donate, your donation is tax deductible.
Today, we have the great honor of welcoming special guest and friend of Anything, Pieter Dekker from the Netherlands. Pieter is he's a passionate follower of Jesus and an influencer. He's a husband and a dad. Currently, he resides in, now he said Gorinchem?
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
In the Netherlands, with his, I can't pronounce, I'm pretty bad at all those sort of names. But yeah, he lives there with his wife Esther and their two beautiful daughters. Over the last year, Pieter has been actively involved in organizing the UN 2023 Water Conference in his role as Private Sector Liaison for the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He is very passionate about seeing the kingdom work in the scary places where there's loads of conspiracy theories. One of his dreams is to provide a safe space for key decision makers to get refreshed and their fire rekindled with new hope and fresh perspectives for the future. He holds a master's degree in water management and civil engineering from Delft University of Technology, and he also attended Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry in Redding, California. Pieter, welcome to the Power of New.
Let's get you on here, Pieter. There he is. Look at that. Welcome, Pieter. Great to have you with us, mate.
Well, thanks so much. So glad to be here. It's an honor.
I was thinking back, Dano. I remembered seeing Pieter because you were at school with Pieter. What was it? Was it a revival group or something, Pieter? You guys were in together, or you were connected somehow out there?
Yeah, second year, our revival group, I believe. We were both in Shane Mandel. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's where I first met you. You were this tall, skinny Dutch man with the $1 million smile that just had Jesus all over him.
Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, the first time I also recognized that I met you was also through the Heaven in Business conference that Andy Mason put on where you were at. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So you were out at God's Embassy in the Netherlands when we spoke there. Was it that one? Or was it a different one?
No, that was the one where you spoke at...
that's right.
Yeah, you spoke out in Reading, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That was the first one, yeah. And then later on in the Netherlands, I couldn't make it because I was abroad for my studies.
That's right. And then just recently, we had a great time with you guys there last year as well in November, I think it was, wasn't it? Just, not even 12 months ago, and it came down and you helped with Pastor Bernard there to get a group of leaders in the room, and together we just had fun hearing from heaven together.
Yeah, that was so impactful, and we had a lunch with several entrepreneurs from our church, and they were really blessed by it, and have made multiple steps after that. Also throughout multiple lunches afterwards.
That's so good.
It's been amazing to have you there. Yeah.
Yeah, amen. We need to get out there and do it again sometime and raise a bit more holy mischief.
I love that.
Yeah. I actually was looking at a photo the other day as well, and I think it was you and Ariane Visa and I think you were still studying then in Delft. And we got together and had lunch, and Ariane, or it might have been you, found us a really nice little restaurant there as well, and dived into a whole heap of nice Dutch flavors and food.
Yeah, we have pancakes. So the Dutch eat pancakes for dinner or for lunch. So we don't typically eat them for breakfast, but they're more like the French crepes, and we would just have a whole dinner of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. They were mighty fine. And they were. Man, it's so good to have you on here today. And so tell us a little bit about your family. You're married, couple of kids. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, I will pronounce the names correctly, I hope. But no, I'm married to Esther almost 7 years ago. We got engaged in the Redwoods in California. Got married in the Netherlands, and then we got back to do the second year of Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. That was actually our honeymoon, which was really nice. Can really recommend it to anyone. Just to have 1 year apart with your bride and spend the time together and alone. Yeah, and then we have two little kids. So the oldest is Anna Lynn. So two daughters. Oldest is Anna Lynn. She's almost 3 years old. And the youngest is Emily. She's 1.5 years old. Yeah.
So you've got a very busy household by the sounds of that.
Yeah, it's busy, but it's so rewarding as well, right? So there's the thing, like your capacities are constantly being increased to to take on more responsibilities like that. But the reward for that is really amazing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually could be a good place to start our conversation today, Dano. I mean, we've got lots of things I want to talk to you about with regards to what you've been doing with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also other areas of leadership that you found yourself a part of. But maybe just starting at that point, what have you learnt about yourself and God being a father? I mean, we were talking about university just a moment ago. You're in a whole new university right now of learning.
Yeah. Yeah, what I've learned about God as a father. Well, so, yeah, there's just too much, I think, right? But one of the things, he's not scared of messy things. Like, me as a father, I don't care if the kids mess up or make stuff really messy in that sense. Like, I know how to clean it up, and I also know how to help them clean it up, right? But the thing I value most, I think, as a father is their heart's attitude towards me and towards others. And if they're in a good place, then I don't mind the messiness in that sense. And if you translate it to your own personal life, like, I've become so much more free because of that. Like, I don't have to do everything perfect because, like, my father is not demanding me to do it perfect. He's just requiring me to have a certain heart attitude towards him and towards others, and the rest is just, yeah, he can deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it really puts the performance thingy out the door, and I think the things you start to do are much more genuine then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said, Peter. I mean, it's been a bit of your experience too, hasn't it, being a dad?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't expect, you don't run into it with the expectation of what it's actually like, right? It's this whole romanticized idea of what being a parent is, and then reality has a way of kind of sneaking around the corner and smacking you with the bat, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
But yeah, that's so powerful. I love what you're saying there about he's not scared of the messy. That's And so much so that he knows how to clean it up, right? How often do we stop to think about that paradigm? Like we're all so scared of our own mess that we don't stop to realize, like, nah, God actually knows how to clean this up, right?
That's
like
good, Dan.
it's
Yeah.
it's gonna be scary, it's gonna suck sometimes, right? Like sometimes we've gotta go through and pick the glass up off the floor, and we've got to rewash everything a few times, but he knows how to do it. So yeah, I think that's really powerful. That's a good word.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
This is good. So, Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your role as the Private Sector Liaison for the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs and what your involvement in organising the UN 2023 Water Conference was? I mean, that sounds like a pretty major undertaking from an outsider looking in. And how did you find yourself waking up one morning and here you are in the middle of this thing? So maybe there's two questions there. First of all, what was it, and how on earth did you get there?
Yeah. It's been a ridiculous ride. And I still, I pinch myself every day. I think over the last year, like, what is this thing that I'm a part of, right? So to just give a little brief background on the conference itself, the United States hasn't had a water conference. Sorry, not the United States. The nations hasn't had a water conference since 46 years. So the first one was in 1977. Wow. And so you might think that water is not too important then to the United Nations, but since a couple of years ago there was just more focus on it, and that resulted into to have a midterm review of a water action decade. That's a whole other story, and it originated with the Tajiks. So the country Tajikistan, they started that, and then there was a midterm review of that whole action decade on water. And then at some point the Dutch got involved to co-host that. So co-host a conference together. And this became the UN 2023 Water Conference. And so a lot of that had to do with drinking water and sanitation, which we are not reaching the goals that we have for that as a world by 2030. But a lot is also on water use in agriculture, for example, or industries, or how to deal with flooding or droughts, or the issues of the water pollutions, but also about how do you deal with transboundary water that flows from from one nation to the other, right. And then who owns the water, who controls the water, and that's a super sensitive topic, right? So that was also something that we were kind of afraid of, we were scared of, like, how is this going to pan out? Because the reason why we didn't have a water conference for 46 years is that it's highly politicized. But since the last couple of years, very smart people came to know that our global water system is changing by us, for example, reducing forests. So normally a forest would evaporate water that would turn into clouds, that would turn into rain showers again, right? In the maybe neighboring countries, or in some countries further down the road. But because of we cut, for example, these trees, or also like a changing climate, those rain showers shifted. And so we end up with a whole different global weather scenario that
right.
much of it is human caused. But then countries along the globe, for example, India and Pakistan, but also others, like, they have a very hard time with getting their people enough water, while also providing them food and growing that food with the water they have, right? So that's why we needed to have a conference like that. And I got to be responsible for the private sector involvement. So that was both the corporates, as well as the private sector networks, and the solution providers that
I mean,
provide either technology or
that's a massive undertaking when you put it in that context. Anything to do with water in the private sector across the world, and I've got to pull off some sort of conference to help join those dots and get these people together with all these levels of complexity. I'd never even thought about that. Maybe if you're listening today, in fact, if you've just joined us, we're with Pieter den Dekker from the Netherlands, and Pieter is a dear friend of Anathan, and we've known Dane and I and Julie have known Pieter for a lot of years now. We can say many years, and a real man of God who, along with his wife Esther and their two girls, are just incredible kingdom leaders, both informally and formally. And we're just talking about the 2023 UN Water Conference, which Pieter was a key part of. So, but the complexities of that, particularly with what'd you say, transcontinental? What was that? What was the phrase there? Transboundary water. I never thought about that. I mean, even things, if you've got a couple of countries that don't get along or whatever as well.
Yeah, the Nile River is one that comes to mind straight away, isn't it? Right? Like all of those countries who are trying to dam up the river and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And the impact of that on the people, moving downstream and things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that other question I want to get to. There's another one that just pops up for me. As a kingdom leader, how on earth do you navigate something like that within the forum of a conference like that?
Well, yeah. Where do you start, right? Where do you start? Like, that was the thing. Like, me getting into the team was just phenomenal, but then the task ahead of you is like daunting. So I had 1 year of just working full time for this conference with a team of first 15 people, but then at the end it was almost 50 people, 50. And at first, like, being an engineer, I feel like I will get the downloads from having the solutions that are brilliant, that might transition the world to some better ways to manage water, right? But that's still good to believe. But I really felt when I asked God to show me, like, okay, what is my task here? What do you want from me? That He really clearly said, I want you to love the people here. That's first and foremost.
Goodness, I think you just tapped into a key thing right there, Pieter. That in actual fact, the water conference, you being in that, was the best vehicle that you had to bring the love of God to people. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah. It all starts with loving people, and you can have, I think, the most brilliant solutions, but they don't really matter if there's no love in it, because at some point you have to collaborate. You have to integrate things, and that requires meeting and connecting with people, and that requires love, right?
So good, Pieter.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I think I learned there. But to get back to the question, like, how did you end up here? That was a wild journey as well, right? there was just traces of God all over there. So me being a civil engineer and being in water management, I went abroad a couple of times to do some projects around drinking water treatment and distribution, specifically in African countries, and also one time in the Philippines. And what I realized pretty quickly, that the technical solutions are relatively simple and affordable, that help the problems that they face get to the next level. So I was like, why are these solutions not adopted then? Like, what's happening here? And what I learned quickly is that the problems are much more people-related problems than technical problems, right?
Right.
So yeah, to do with the management of a drinking water company, and that management was run by the federal government. So they would put people in office there, and if there's a new government, then all the people had to leave there, all the management would come in, which is not. These solutions can really help you as an organization that are really cheap, and require only like maybe 1% of what the World Bank is wanting to put here. But the World Bank wants to do this, and that's actually not really solving the problems that you're having, or the first problems that you need to solve before getting to the next level, right?
Right.
So it's like, but how do I get involved in this as a civil engineer? Because these problems are either you want to either target the federal government, and you can do that from a foreign perspective as a diplomat, or you could do it from the global economic perspective by working with a World Bank or an IMF or whatever organization, like at that level, right?
Yeah.
How do you get there? And then that's the first step. And then how do you get influence there to change trajectories?
Right.
Which is so I really I told God, I really want to do this, but you have to get me in, because I just don't know how to get there, and also I don't want to elbow my way up to a level that I have influence there. So I put it on the back burner, still having that dream and desire, and started working after graduation at a different company.
Right.
And then at some point I was notified of this UN Water Conference 2 years prior, and I told my wife Esther, I really want to be involved in that while I was still working for the other employer. And that felt like a God-given desire, right?
Yeah.
So I said it out loud, and I knew like there's something on it, but let's see.
So let's just focus in on that. I think because and the rest of the story will help us. I think the sense of you said something that I think is really curious, and it's one of those things that we sort of know, but there's a lot of people listening that'll just go, I have no idea what that means. But you said, I know God was sort of on it. I know this desire came from him. What were some of the indicators for you that because what you're about to step into, what you're about to share with us is a really big deal, and you're about to make some, significantly life-altering decisions compared to other things you could do. You'd want to be pretty sure about that. How did you discern that? How did you identify that was him speaking?
I think because I can still trace that moment back. Like I still know where I was at, the situation, where Esther was, the time of day almost, and the room that we were in. So I think that is significant there, right? With hindsight. But then in that moment, how it felt like for me is that there's just almost this weightiness that you're like, I shouldn't have this weightiness for just regular things that I say, right? When I say hi, Mom, for example, I don't feel something like that.
Great insight.
But
great insight.
This time I was like, oof. So it's almost something that feels like it's resonating with your heart, and you don't know why. You don't have to know why, but there's something there that might need further exploration.
Yeah. I think that's well said, with resonance in your heart. I think that's a key word. I know we can relate to that. I remember when you came to me and said, hey, what would it be like if I took over Anathem Media? Was that a similar kind of experience?
Yeah, absolutely it was. Absolutely. And it's, I always find it interesting as well, right? Because I remember at school, they were always talking about the passions and desires that you have, the Lord's put there. Like so often we sit and we beat around the bush, like, oh, I want this thing, but I don't know if that's from the Lord or not. But well, if the desire's there, then it's probably from the Lord. So let's find a way to partner with him in that, right? So yeah, absolutely.
That's good, and that resonance feels right. And I think that's just good, because I know I use a lot of language at times, and Julie goes, "What on earth do you mean by that?" I believe you, what you're saying, but help me understand the process a little bit, because you're leaving me behind here. So I really appreciate your insights there, guys. That's that word resonance. I think that's just a good. It's like a tuning fork of Wesley. It was the great revivalist. He called it the inward witness of the Spirit. That there's this inward witness that we know that this is God at work in me. And maybe that's another bit of language we can build around these moments, because they are marker moments that we here at Anathan, we've used this phrase, there are hinge moments of history upon which many years will swing. You are having a hinge moment in your history right there, that again, what you did and what would happen years later that you don't even know yet, many years swing on that hinge moment of history. So man, that's good. So continue on in the story there. I just thought that was important to land on. So you knew that this was from God, and now you've discerned that, and now taking us into the next step.
So it actually took another, like a whole year before I found anything else related to that conference, right? And it might be good also to back up a little bit, because during my studies, during my graduate studies, I was involved with the water ambassadors for the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water, which was basically like a scholarship program, which was another story in itself. But through that, I got to know the Dutch water envoy, international water envoy, that just took over the role of the Dutch king, the king of the Netherlands.
Okay.
Because our king was special advisor to the UN on water and sanitation at that time, to the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. You might know him.
Yeah.
So he had to leave that position once he became king, and then this guy Henk took that position from him. And I really liked this water envoy, water ambassador, water envoy, and I actually asked him to intern with him, but there was just no way. There's no way we could make that happen. So it was kind of sad, but like I knew, like at some point we'll get to know and see each other again, but don't know how, Yeah. And then this job opened up, and I applied for the interview, and there was a crazy process in itself. But then I got into the job with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think it's good to understand that for some people it's really hard to get into a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For many people, that is their life's dream. Like they have built their whole life for that purpose, like doing all the things you should be doing. Can you hear me again?
Yep, we got you there again. That's all good.
Oh, okay. Siri went off on my phone, so. But I got in there as kind of a weird guy, because I was one of the few people with an engineering background, right? And it turned out that I was actually one of the few people that had a water-related background coming into that UN water conference team. And this team was being led by this water envoy Henk. That was really special to work with him over the last year. But throughout that 5 years going backwards, I received these words from so many people when I told them like I would go into water management. They would always tell me like, "Oh, you're gonna follow in the king's footsteps."
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, sure," So that was happening already at school at Bethel, but then also afterwards in the Netherlands. So I think maybe 20 or more people have told me. And maybe after 5 to 10 people, I started to realize, like, what if this is actually a prophetic word? What if there's more meaning to it than just like, oh, this is what everyone says?
So there's a couple of things unfolding here then. So you've had the discernment to start with, this sense of knowing. You've actually acted on it. You've knocked on some doors. You've tried to move in that direction. The timing didn't seem to be quite right. Then all of a sudden the opportunity opens up and you go, well, this seems impossible for a guy like me to be in a place like this. But it's happened because you've acted on that discernment to start with. Now when you're in there, these words that have happened, that have been spoken years past, that didn't really have any context to them, suddenly they've got context, and you go, oh my goodness, now you've got an affirmation from the Lord that I am the right man in the right place at the right time. Is that sort of, have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, and also, yeah, totally. And also that during this conference last March, the conference, as co-host, you have to preside over the conference, right? You have a president there. So our president was the Dutch king that was formerly the UN Special Advisor on Water.
Wow.
So that was just a whole like circle.
How good's that? That's a
full
great story.
circle, to just like almost like really follow in his footsteps in that sense. But you know, when you have these words and you get these words, you're like, how much value should I give them, right? Should I take them at face value, like literal, or have they like a nice
Right.
meaning to it?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so, I think, so important to really, grind them out in that sense. Almost as if you're grinding coffee beans. That's something that I like to do. But then you kind of know like what's the quality of that word.
Paul, I think it refers to it like this: working out your salvation with fear and trembling. That's a very practical step of working it out. What's this word? Is this a word that's just an encouragement, or is there real specific elements? Well, you've got a responsibility now, as you said. You know, like grinding coffee. I got to do something with this. I got to work it out. I got to bring it before Him. Yeah.
And it's really to test it, right? That's also what Paul said, I think. About that. So, but then what's really amazing also is that I got a really pretty free role as being in charge of private sector engagement for the conference, because normally like a ministry is very like rigorous and there's a lot of structures and processes that you have to just follow, right? But organizing a conference that's only being organized once every 46 years, you don't have too many things that you can like check off, right?
We got to ask the last guys. Well, I'm sorry, they were buried a couple of years back because it's my goodness.
And then I really like the business side. I really believe and think that businesses can offer solutions to problems the world is facing, and water is no exception to that. And I might have been one of the fewer people to really believe that, but because of that belief, I could really help them connect with the bigger agenda here, right? And I think that's also important, that sometimes you're working with people and structures that don't really encourage or believe what you believe in, but once you get them together and gel them together, they'll become more beautiful and more impactful.
I love it. I love what I'm hearing, Peter, as well, is that there's a kingdom dot that's really profound, and one of the many things I love about you is this heart for planet Earth. That you know, we're all on this big blue marble together, and somehow we've got to keep it sustainable because we want our kids and our grandkids to live on it as well, and those that follow on. Would that have been a unique perspective you think you brought to the conversation? Granted, you probably couldn't use that language, but within you use that word belief. What would be the genesis of that belief for you?
Yeah. Oh, the thing is, like, sometimes I think as Christians we're not too conservative in that sense, in the most literal sense, right? To really conserve nature, conserve water, conserve the things that God made. Be good stewards of that. And that was mainly the message to the conference and to the private sector, and from the private sector, like, everyone that is using water to at some capacity, in some capacity, you have to be a good water steward. And with being a good water steward comes also being a good nature steward, because you cannot do one or the other, right?
Of course.
And what I've been seeing is that that message really resonates with maybe more of the left people, but because it's so conservative in nature, it also resonates with the more right people that are conservatives.
Yeah.
So you get a beautiful blend here of people working together, maybe not from the same perspective, but they will help each other out here. And sometimes I think we as Christians are not really at the forefront of this thinking in that sense, and really shaping the ideas and shaping the language here, where we could actually, right? We have I also feel like we have a mandate and a right to do it, because to me, like, it's just going back to Eden. Like, if Jesus Christ paid for everything and restored everything, then everything is accessible before sin entered the world.
That's
Then
good,
what
Peter.
does that look like? That's my journey, and
Wow.
I've come to realize that you can have great revival and many thousands and maybe millions of people saved, but if the earth, the soil, and the natural resources are not transformed as well in a healthy way, then that's not like a real complete transformation or reformation, or however you call it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, you've articulated that beautifully, and we talk a lot about discipleship around here in terms of human flourishing, don't we? It's this rounded view of, yes, meet Jesus, absolutely, yes. You know, we want to square away our own salvation. Of course, that's imperative, and revival on that is so important. But discipleship tends to just start and stop with, I've got to learn to read my Bible and learn to pray and be kind to my neighbour. But it just seems so much broader than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like being at BSSM together, one of the things that they talk a lot about is revival culture. What does it look like to carry revival culture to you into your workplace, into the middle of a UN water conference, and to liaising with all of these other businesses who are also working in that? What does that look like for you?
Well, yeah, you can make it very hard, right, and also very pragmatic. But I think one of the biggest things I learned back at BSSM was the true belief that God is good and He's always good. And so to me, that became my foundation for everything. And I think that's what I've also took in my work, right? God is good and He is always good. So what does good look like in this situation, in this environment? And then how do I need to posture myself towards people, ideas, initiatives, and everything that's going on? Like, where is God on, and what should I help bring to fruition? And I think that's what was one of my roles, is that I could really help pinpoint the things that were really good or nice or should be highlighted, and also I could also not do that for the things that shouldn't be highlighted in that sense. But that was just, I think, one example, or one aspect of revival culture. I also think that really serving others has helped me and get that perspective. Back at school, like, I was really touched by the Bible stories of Daniel and Joseph and Esther, that really had to serve kings and influential people that were not not godly, right? And that was my situation a lot of times as well. But then how do you posture your hearts towards that? Do you actually want them to be to be successful and to be as great as they can be, or are you talking behind your back about things and almost kind of like doing things that are not helping them to be successful? And I think that's what
great
God
thought,
values.
Peter.
So,
Man, that's
and then, I can go into a very specific situation that was kind of interesting.
Please do.
So in my first week in the office, like our prime minister was going to go to the World Economic Forum, and I was supposed to and help as a speechwriter. But then I have so many people, and I believe you have as well, that have very negative thoughts about the World Economic Forum. And then there's two things I can do, right? I can either still have these thoughts and out of that help him, but that's not gonna help him be successful there. So what I felt like I had to do is just to really surrender my opinion about it, become more open-minded about it, like, in a sense of like, yes, they can be not right, but that doesn't mean that I need to judge them. So I'm withholding my judgment
a great insight
about the organization or whatever it is, right? And this is the specific example of the World Economic Forum.
Right.
But by me withholding my judgment, I could actually be serving my prime minister and also serving the people that were doing really amazing work on the ground at the World Economic Forum that could help businesses, for example, do the right things on water. So just like to me, that's just do you have an open heart or a closed heart towards these things? Because if you have a closed heart, then God cannot work through that. And if you have an open heart, He can use anything.
That's a great insight. I mean, that's made it really practical for me, even at another level again. As we think of revival culture, we think we've got to be a Jonathan Edwards or a John Wesley or a Charles Finney or whoever it may be. In actual fact, you've brought it down into something very bite-sized, Peter. It's a revelation and understanding, firstly, of His goodness in His character and nature, then His goodness to me, and then through that lens, I get to explore the goodness of God in any situation, and to put my judgments down so that the goodness of God can shine through. And what you've really, I think beautifully articulated there is this is how we're entering miracle territory, and how we're stepping into these places. That there's a grace, isn't there, when we bring the goodness of God?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's such a powerful word.
Yeah, it is. Love that. And so I think, again, maybe there's some people that are listening today and are here on the Power of New, and you're going, well, I could never be someone who brings revival. I could never be that kind of person. That's not my personality type. That's not my skill set. Well, you know what? Bring the goodness of God. Reveal goodness. Focus in on those elements where His goodness is revealed. Encourage those things in people. And what will happen, I think, if we go all the way back again, we get the resonance again, as you were saying before, in the hearts of people. And now we're partnering with heaven on those matters as well. I just think that's really, really cool. I love that. Yeah. It's Norman has just said here as well, it's a great point on withholding judgment so you can still serve open-heartedly. It's exactly right. And keeping our hearts open is actually keeping the channel of the kingdom open through us to the world around us.
Yeah. So I believe like this is the example that everyone or many people have opinions about, right? But you can also change that for your neighbor that is maybe too loud washing his car or something like right? Do you have the same attitude towards him, or like the people in the grocery store that are just they just caught you up and are in front of the line or something like that?
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think this is the beauty of it. You've demystified, I think, for a lot of people, Peter, in the way that you've said that, because people would look at a position you have and go, "I'm never going to be in that realm of working in a geopolitical space, working with these sorts of decision makers." Well, no, that's fair. That's the unique expression of your calling, but that's not a better or a worse expression. It's just your expression. So whatever your expression is, the principles are the same. They're no different. It's like I get to carry this open-heartedness into this context. As you said, the grocery store. There might be single parents that are going, well, I don't even have that opportunity, but I do go to the grocery store. Well, you actually can reveal that. There's some real practical ways. I was at the getting a bottle of water and a snack last Monday at a mall down here. And I remember, I got my snack and whatever, and I get to the counter and I look up, and there was a person in front of me, and I could see that they were tired. They were a person that, let's just say they have extremely different views to the views that I hold about sexuality. And so there they are. I could be really confronted against that, or instead I could look at the humanity, actually identify the image of God in a person and go, I can see. And I called them by name. I said, I can see you're really tired today. It must have been a hard day. Has it been a tough day here? Well, actually, yeah, it has been. It's been really, really busy. And I said, yeah, you look like you're worn down. You need to make sure you give yourself a break throughout the day today. I know you had a little bit of a dialogue for 40 seconds, 60 seconds. What's happening is that, again, heart open instead of closed, because there have been many a time where my heart's been closed in those circumstances. Again, truth be known. But in that time it wasn't, and what happened? An opportunity to actually speak to the humanity of a person, the image of Godness in a person, reveal the goodness of God in that conversation. And now, rather than shut down, we open up, albeit in a minute way, an opportunity for some connection there.
And to me, it's beautiful that we landed on this, because I really feel like that in withholding judgment, that's the only way we can love, right?
Yeah. That's right.
And it's the only way we can influence. And being a leader is really about influencing. So it's really about, then withholding judgment towards a lot of things. And still things can be wrong, right? Like there is right and wrong, but judgment is not up to us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's and judgment is very much tied to offence, and I'm reminded of Jesus at Nazareth, and it said that the people were offended at him, and he could do no miracles among them. And I remember the first time I was confronted with that reality, I was sitting back and I'm going, I've got my offence in this hand, and I've got my need for miracles in this hand. How desperately do I need to hold on to my offence? Because while I'm holding on to my offence, I don't get access to miracles. So I remember it was a very black-white decision. My judgment causes the offence. I've judged that you did this thing and you're a whatever, fill in the gap. But that judgment then takes away the capacity for me to have an opportunity to bring the goodness of God and be a conduit for the kingdom of God and see a miracle in my midst. And so that many years ago, that sort of revelation suddenly hit me. And I thought, I want to be as quick as letting my offenses down, letting them go as quickly as I can. And because I still get offended, we all get offended. We live in a real world. But the question is not, do I get offended? The question is, how quick do I let them go? How quick do I put my judgments down?
Yeah, I remember there was a phrase in our household for a while that was like, I don't get offended on, and whatever specific day it is, I don't get offended on Sundays. I don't get offended on Mondays, right? Because we were all very much that, like how quickly we can get pulled out of God's blessing and pulled out of that miracle territory when we pick up the offense. And so we all used to say that, didn't we?
We did, exactly right. Yeah. We made it as part of the culture in our home to be aware of it and to say, no, we've got to let go of this stuff, because we all need miracles in our life. Let's just be honest. I don't care who you are listening to the Power of New today. We all need miracles in our life in some way, shape or form.
And it's just not worth it to carry it, right, the offense. I mean, sometimes you feel like you have an obligation, or no, so you're entitled to to be offended or something, but it's just not worth it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Mm.
Well, this has been some good stuff, some good conversation today, and we're just really thankful that you've let us sort of sneak behind the curtain into some of your processes of thought and how you've heard the voice of God, from first of all discernment way back at the beginning, and then the acting upon that discernment. And as you said, it took a good while for some of these things to come to fruition, but you were obedient with taking some steps. I love the way as well you joined the dot between words people spoke over you, and then how do I know they're a prophetic word? Not just good meaning words, words of encouragement. How do I know they've got a prophetic element to them? And I love the way you said that you ground those things out to be able to go, I can distill which ones are which now, and now I can act on these. And it prepared you to be, God's man for the moment in the right place and right time. And then in that place, what did it mean to bring the goodness of God, to reveal his goodness in that place? And by doing that, you honored the king. You honored those that were above you as well. And that gave you access, because the spiritual principle's always there. You get access to that which you honor. And so now you have an authority that you could bring into the area of influence that you are entrusted with in that place. And then again, what gets in the way of that? Judgment and offense. It just gets right in the way of it. But if we take that out, then our hearts are open, and now we can move well and bring that influence and that favor. And what a journey. That's just, we didn't expect the conversation to go that way today, but so thankful that it did. But Peter, we got one more burning question, and this is the real big question here at the Power of New, that we love to ask everybody. And the big question is this: as you know, that this podcast is called The Power of New, and it's conversation.
We love new things.
That's
we
right.
We love new things.
We do. We always love new things. I like a new haircut.
Yeah.
I like tasting new foods.
I like new microphones.
Yeah, that's right. Especially Dane. He loves new microphones. Exactly right. So in the nature of
The salmon last Friday. That was really good.
Give me 24 hours, and I'll be out there.
You realise it's right on lunchtime here,
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah, it was my first time. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
So you've got a smoker at home then?
Yep.
Very good.
Yep. It's one of my hobbies. That's the thing with these. It's a Kamado Joe, so it's a ceramic barbecue type of thing. But the thing here is you cannot rush it. If you're in a rush, don't do it because it's not going to serve you well. So you have to really be in the present and just enjoy it. And then there's a lot to enjoy, right?
Absolutely.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. I know Norman here is a man who loves to smoke his food as well. And we've got we were in Raleigh last weekend. Just trying to think.
2 weeks
I think
ago?
it was, yeah. And Dwight, a dear brother up there, and he had smoked some brisket that we got to bring home. And we bought a pound of brisket home. It didn't last long, but
No, it didn't.
You and me did it.
No, I think we ate it for lunch that day.
We did. It didn't stand a chance. It didn't. So yeah, we are big fans around here of smoked meat.
Absolutely. Maybe we need to get some. We need to get some wood chips and smoke something too. I think.
I think I'd put you in charge of that because I
here
would
for it.
absolutely butcher that. I know I would.
So good.
That's good stuff. Well, hey, next week we've got another great lot of guests lined up here on the Power of New. We get the incredible honour of introducing you to dear friends of Anathan, Omar and Karina Hernandez from Plano, Texas. Omar and Karina Hernandez, they are people that we met a year ago out in Reading, and they have resided for the past 10 years in Plano. They've got 3 great kids, Ricardo, Sebastian and Sophia. Karina holds a business degree from UNT and has partnered with State Farm for 23 years. Omar and Karina have 2 insurance agencies with a total of 14 team members, including themselves. But prior to joining their talents with Karina, Omar was in the restaurant industry for about 16 years.
He knows a lot about smoking, apparently.
That's right. They've been working working together for the last 7 years, and Karina's role is in coaching, leading, mentoring, and training the team along with business admin. Omar drives the marketing and business acquisition department, working directly with the sales team there. But here in 2021, they fully surrendered the business to the Lord, and they have experienced a huge transformation in all aspects of their life. Get this, shortly after their great surrender, they lost their entire team and were led to pray for each new team member and to rebuild their foundation with God at the center as the foundation of their business. They've come to the realization that their business has now become their ministry. All team members became Christ followers. Praise Jesus. Karina has a monthly Bible study in her home where she gathers women and disciples them back to the heart of the Father. Omar is about to launch his first Kingdom Business breakfast at their home, where he will gather businessmen and leaders from around the area. They're a fun couple. They're full of life and energy. You're not going to want to miss these guys. We've been really blessed knowing them around here for the last year or so, and just an amazing testimony of what God has done. I mean, imagine that, Dano. That you're going about your business, going to surrender it to the Lord, and this is going to be great. And suddenly your whole team.
Yeah, that's it. Weren't they the ones who got the word that said the Lord told them to just shut down the business?
That's right.
Just shut it down and then start it all over again. So it's just like this really, really powerful story of faith and trust in what the Lord's doing for them too.
Yeah, that's right. And then when they hired leaders, team members, many of them weren't believers, but then they realized that this was actually their ministry. So now they've led them all to the Lord. And I mean, it's just these are incredible stories that are out there, just like Peter's today, where we heard of a man of God and the journey of what did it mean to truly become a global level influencer in the water space. I mean, it's just great stuff that the Lord is doing. So no matter where you are, if you've got the Holy Spirit in you, then you're a leader, because greater is He that's in you than he that's in the world. And we haul. I love your definition of leadership there, Peter. It is influence is what leadership is, and wherever you are within the spheres of what you've been entrusted with. The influence that you bring for the kingdom of God, and a revelation of His goodness in every circumstance. And these are the stories that are out there. And this podcast, The Power of New, is a platform for getting them out and encouraging everybody all around the world, right where you are. Peter, it's been great having you with us today, mate.
Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks for your friendship and just being able to hang out together for the last couple of years. I love it, and I'm looking forward to see each other again in real life.
Amen. We'll get ourselves back out to the Netherlands again with you crazy Dutch people and raise some holy mischief. We have a lot of fun every time we get out there together. And look forward to that as well. And blessings upon you. If you're on our live stream right now, we're about to finish our broadcast. We ask you to stay on here so we can pray for Peter and bless him on his way as well today. But remember, God wants to take you further and deeper into encounters with His always perfect love for greater impact, because He wants to love the world through you. God bless you guys. We love you, and we'll see you here with Omar and Karina Hernandez next week at The Power of New.